This video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN that keeps you safe online. More on them in just a bit. Today, discover the hidden wonders that are hidden beneath our feet. From the occupied storm drains of Las Vegas to the breathtaking beauty of the Moscow Metro's Green Line. Join us as we take a journey to explore 5 of the world's most incredible underground structures. You'll be amazed by tales of makeshift homes, underground lakes, and a metro system that celebrates the populism of a revolution. Okay, let's jump in. Las Vegas is a place of contradictions. Obscene wealth commingles with brutal poverty in this glittery oasis in the Nevada desert, where the world's middle class flock to gamble away their savings and to be transported to somewhere else, a Roman Colosseum, Paris, or the canals of Venice. The script says Venus, which is obviously an error. That would be less appealing as a casino, but with much cheaper food and none of the inconveniences of, actually going to these places. One of these contradictions is written into the very structure of the city itself. Though it is among the driest cities on Earth, Las Vegas also contends with some of the world's worst floods, made all the more devastating by the flat, arid landscape which can turn a sudden downpour into a raging flash flood in mere minutes. Addressing this ironic vulnerability, the city has, since the 1990s, been constructing a system of around 1,000 miles, that's 1,600 kilometers, of storm drains. These huge concrete channels now crisscross the Vegas Strip and extend far from the city's heart. The tunnels are also occupied, and not by a mere few hearty mole people, but rather by a growing population of drain dwellers who have built something of an underground city that hides the city's crushing poverty from passing tourists. A recent count suggests that as many as 2,000 people currently live there. These residents make their homes in cavernous spaces, sometimes as high as 15 feet, that's 4.5 meters, where the constant threat of rushing water hasn't stopped hundreds from constructing makeshift homes, complete even with beds and kitchens raised above the tunnel floors. In this strange parallel world, a culture of sharing has emerged where residents help each other by organizing into small communities, teaching the newest residents how to contend with the risk of floods, occasional police raids, and the need to guard one's possessions against thieves. Residents travel by bicycle through pitch-black avenues and make their homes up cul-de-sacs and inside the drier upper portions of the tunnel system, grouping together for safety. Everywhere, graffiti artists ply their trade on an enormous canvas. The tunnels and drains also act as an illicit highway for the city's drug trade. Dealers and couriers use the passages to store and transport small amounts of drugs and cash out of sight of the police and hotel security. Here, prostitutes hide from pimps and dealers evade the police. Many of the residents are hardcore drug users. And even as the city contends with the growing population under its feet, Las Vegas is expanding the tunnel system. Despite the hundreds of miles of finished tunnels, Las Vegas still experiences damaging floods almost every time it rains, ensuring that this complex of underground communities will only grow in the future. Have you ever wondered how safe your online activity really is? With Surfshark VPN, you can mask everything you do online and keep your personal information private. With Surfshark VPN, you can travel the world in just a single click, connect to popular websites, and easily access and unblock streaming platforms. You can even change your virtual location, making it possible to access your home comforts anytime, anywhere. I often do this when I'm abroad. I just set it to where I live because then I get the comfort of the familiar ads from home. It sounds stupid, but I like it. And with Surfshark VPN, you can get past geo-blocks and government restrictions, ensuring that you never miss out on anything online. Now, if you're an avid cafe goer, traveler, wanderer, Surfshark VPN will keep you safe even on unknown public networks. Your data is encrypted, so you can send and receive files and data securely, and also even get better deals when online shopping. With Surfshark VPN's military-grade encryption, all your data is blurred, making it impossible for anyone to read. Plus, with one subscription, you can have unlimited devices and even share it with your friends. Surfshark VPN offers 24/7 support, so you can get help anytime you need via live chat, email, or social media. And if you're not completely satisfied, take advantage of Surfshark VPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. Get Surfshark VPN today by going to surfshark.deal/sideprojects or clicking the link in the description below and entering the promo code SIDEPROJECTS to get 83% off and 3 months for free. What a bargain! Stay safe online with Surfshark VPN. And now back to today's video. Not all underground living results from crushing poverty and inequality. Extending as deep as 327 meters, that's 1,000 feet into the earth, the Wieliczka salt mine is one of dozens of similar sites throughout Central and Eastern Europe, where a vast inland sea, similar to the modern Mediterranean, once deposited sea salt hundreds of millions of years ago. The region, which includes parts of modern-day Poland and Austria, was once the world's leading source of salt, with some of the mines dating back to the Roman Empire. Abandoned and collapsed mines have yielded the preserved bodies of salt miners from at least 350 BC, and there are doubtless many more such finds waiting to be discovered. Salt, as it turns out, is very conductive to tunneling, which is why Wieliczka and other salt mines are so incredibly vast. Unlike coal or silver, salt mines typically consist of pure salt, which were transported to the surface by ancient miners using the technique of brinning. Miners melted the salt in situ with the help of water wells and then pumped the brine to the surface for use in pickling and preserving vegetables, fish, and other goods. Today, visitors to Wieliczka can sample the brine from still functional wells. They can also view an underground lake constructed during the tunnel's most productive years around the 12th to the 13th century AD, when the native Piast dynasty ruled Poland. During the Nazi occupation, the mine was the site of a forced labor camp and underground armaments manufacturing facility home to about 1,700 prisoners, mostly Jewish. Following its use as a mine, Wieliczka became a tourist attraction, with enormous life-sized historical dioramas and other attractions carved completely from its salt. The mine today serves as a museum and arts venue that preserves the varied history of the salt industry and of ancient Poland. 2 enormous caverns have been converted into Catholic chapels, the largest of which, St. Kinga's, is 100 meters below ground and 11 meters high, with a floor area of 465 square meters, that's 5,000 feet. The chapel can accommodate 400 worshippers and hosts parties and theatre performances, as well as concerts of classical music, with its large church organ. We've seen underground structures made to manage climate change and to produce resources, and now we're going to look at a structure designed to detect the smallest thing in the universe, the Deep Underground Neutrino Experiment, or DUNE. Consisting of 2 locations, one at Fermilab near Chicago, Illinois, and the other at the Stanford Underground Research Facility in Lead, South Dakota, DUNE is the future site of one of the world's largest future experiments in astronomy, despite being as deep as 30 kilometers, that's 19 miles underground. To understand DUNE, you have to know a bit more about neutrinos first. Neutrinos are the smallest known subatomic particle that has mass. Particles with mass, such as neutrons, protons, electrons, and neutrinos, are called fermions, after their discoverer, Italian physicist Enrico Fermi. Fermions make up the stuff of the universe that we can see: stars, galaxies, and planets. There are 4 known ways that these fermions can interact with each other: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. While the particles that make up everyday objects like protons and neutrons interact using all of these forces, a neutrino is different. It only interacts with the others via the weak nuclear force and gravity. Since the neutrino is incredibly small, less than 2.4 times 10 to the power of 37 kilograms, its presence is nearly impossible to detect. Yet these things are everywhere, and they are in everything. Trillions of neutrinos pass through your body every second of every day, but they're so small, and the spaces between the protons and neutrons in your body are so huge that they pass right through you without so much as a hiccup. We have known since the 1940s that neutrinos can be created by bombarding protons with electrons to form one neutron and one neutrino. We also know, based on Fermilab experiments, that neutrinos have mass. Now DUNE is going to provide better measurements of the mass of neutrinos by firing a beam of the tiny particles from Fermilab through 1,300 kilometers, that's 810 miles of Earth, to the Stanford Underground Research Facility, where neutrino detectors buried underground in an abandoned gold mine will measure changes in the neutrino beam, revealing new information about the neutrinos themselves. To do this, Fermilab will use a particle accelerator to fire a tiny beam of protons close to the speed of light through a magnetic horn, where they will decay into neutrinos, which are capable of passing through solid matter as if it isn't there. These neutrinos will pass through hundreds of miles of solid rock to reach the Stanford facility, where they will be caught in a 193-meter long, 635-foot decay tube. This tube will be filled with 70 kilotons of liquid liquid argon, and incredibly precise measurements will allow scientists to detect the beam of neutrinos coming from Fermilab. Although the proton beam will consume as much energy in 1 second as a typical household uses in several months, by the time the neutrinos reach the detector in South Dakota, they will produce nothing more than tiny, barely detectable flashes of light impossible for the human eye to detect. The vast majority of the neutrinos will pass straight through the tube, but about 1 in a few trillion won't, and extremely sensitive instruments will measure their impact on the liquid argon. These interactions will be compared with similar, smaller detectors at the Fermilab site, allowing scientists to see variations in the beam after passing through hundreds of miles of solid rock. Even then, the difference in the neutrino beam after this long journey will be so slight that it will take years of observations and thousands of hours of calculations by superconductors to determine the results. Incredibly, even though the experiment is happening kilometers underground with no direct way of viewing the sky, scientists can use it to study faraway galaxies. This is thanks to the distance between the source of the neutrino beam and the detectors. Extremely subtle changes in the readings at the two detector sites may allow scientists to observe supernovas and the formation of neutron stars and black holes by measuring their effects on the neutrino beam. The underground is not just great for science, it's not just for water, it's not just for delicious salty rocks, it can also be for transportation, which brings us to another perennial favorite activity of modern society, digging enormous holes for people to ride through so they don't have to sit in traffic every morning. The Moscow Metro first opened in 1935 with a single 11-kilometer line and just 13 stations, that's 7 miles. It was the first underground railway station in the Soviet Union, built 42 years after Londoners began to mind the gap. Yet despite it being a relative newcomer in comparison with other world capitals, the Moscow Metro is also one of the most traditional underground systems in the world, preserving to this day the grandeur and wonder of mass transit as it would have first appeared to the very first riders on the system. The Moscow Metro is known today for being one of the densest and longest systems in the world, with 435 kilometers, that's 270 miles of tracks, 15 lines, and 250 stations. It's also one of the deepest, with Park Pobedi Station reaching 74 meters, 243 feet underground. And it's also one of the busiest, with an average daily ridership of 7 million and a record peak of 10 million in 2014. Moscovites take 2.5 billion rides a year on the Moscow Metro, and they're not the only ones. Unlike many systems in the West, Moscow's metro system has always been a state-run enterprise. It was designed from the beginning to glorify public transport and celebrate the populism of the Bolshevik communist revolution, emphasizing Russia's heritage as a leading center of art and culture in the neoclassical and romantic periods of the 18th and 19th centuries. The second largest station, Arbatskaya, next to the former Soviet Defense Ministry offices, is a lavish, high-ceilinged vault of red marble floors and chandeliers. Meanwhile, Avia Motonaya of the Yellow Line has a ceiling covered in gold anodized pyramids decorated with sun rays and stars, with an enormous statue depicting Icarus, the Greek mythical inventor of flight. While there is a station that exemplifies practically any architectural period or style imaginable, one of our favorites has to be the Mayayevskaya station on the Green Line, which depicts pre-World War II Stalinist architecture heavily influenced by the Art Deco movement, reminiscent of Hollywood of the 1920s, with ceilings adorned with mosaics depicting daily life in the Soviet Union. It was to this station that Joseph Stalin himself came for shelter during air raids on Moscow during the war. Whatever your feelings on the current state of Russian politics or its decades-long period of communist rule, it's hard to dismiss this incredible metro station as anything less than a bold marvel of artistic accomplishment and a public space with few rivals in the modern world.